Hello everyone. I'm doing my last video on AI, or so I think. I'd done a video about a year or two ago and some others earlier about advances in AI and its use for creative expression. And I go back to about 1990 with AI using expert systems. I had a consulting business that pursued that starting in 91. And anyway, it's gone from this kind of crawling evolutionary thing to a full-blown revolution, and it presents unique challenges for those that produce creative content, whether it's writing, poetry, music, art, these sort of things. And you don't really want to hear my musings about it and philosophical ramblings because you have your own and they're well established. I just want to share a little bit about my story with it. And I don't know how this all goes, but certainly things produced after, you can pick a year, I'll say 2022, you could say 2023, you could say earlier, has this authenticity issue that you have to contend with. And again, I wanted to actually talk about real examples here, largely with music in this case, because that's what I had written about for some conference proceedings and other writings, and also I did some YouTube videos on it. But art is the same sort of thing. And what's really the tougher issue, I guess, to contend with is how do you verify authenticity, how do creators preserve their domain, and again, I don't want to get too far into where humans bump into AI and so on, but AI is clearly an adjunct to everyone's work. It can replace people's work. So I should probably stop going down that road, or I'll just go on and on. And again, you have your own well thought out ideas on that, so I don't want to impute my notions onto you. So in my little world, I have not used AI at all for writing because I write a lot of things, fiction, nonfiction, poetry, and I have a firewall there. I've never used AI for writing anything. I guess someday that might change, I don't know, but I was a little bit concerned about dates because anything after 2022 or so is suspect as far as its provenance, and you know, that's kind of the tough thing, but the new generation has to contend with that. So if you write the most beautiful short story in the world and you write it 5 years from now, you know, where did it come from? Who put the words on paper, so to speak? And what help did you get with it? So so for writing, I make a statement in my work, and I guess on this video, I'm going to do another video too. I put a statement somewhere in here that none of my writing or cover painting in this case was generated or aided by AI. I put that in all my books now and so on. That's just a statement. I wanted to look at music though, because that's where I do use AI. So I had, in a past video I looked at paintings and trying to replicate paintings using AI, generative AI, and it didn't do well. Again, that's a bit dated. I'm sure it will get better, but so firewall for writing, don't use anything. Never have. Again, for digital imagery, I am using AI for certain things, and I announce when I use it. For poetry, of course, I don't use it. For work in the visual arts, I don't use it. Outside of digital art itself, I guess. But music, okay, that's something different. So for music, and I point this out because there's a previous video, I'll put a link below, where I look at the rules governing certain types of music composition. And as there are in many arenas. So we use technology, we have techniques to write, to paint, to create music, and all these things. So I kind of explored these normative rules and how they can be used by people that are not so proficient. So if you have Mozart and others that you might admire at the 100% level as far as musical composition, and then you say your really talented friends are at 95%, well, I'm pretty close to 0%. So I can get up to not 95%, but maybe I can get up to 80% with AI. And that's like this kind of weird number, but I'll just throw that out. In other words, I can go from not being able to walk to being able to kind of jog. I'll never be an Olympic sprinter. But AI does allow people that are not practitioners in certain areas to use it. And where this comes, to me, as an important element is in poetry and putting poetry to song. Because my little statement is, my little aphoristic shout to the wind is that nobody reads poetry. Very few people do. And I'm not a great poet, but I write poetry. And why do I write it? Because I do. And who is it for? It's for me. But people listen to songs. So I've always been intrigued, and I've done this in the past, that whisper sweet song and so on, of putting poetry to music. And so in here, this is in July of 2024, I went through an exercise of creating songs from poems. And I took, in fact, some of the poems are from this book that came out recently, which I read about in an email, or a YouTube video. So I took some of these poems and some other ones, and I've made 32 songs so far. And these are just from poems that kind of lend themselves to a song. So I took the song, tweaked the lyrics a little bit, created the structure of the song with verse, bridge, chorus, these kind of elements, jammed it into AI, and there's lots of videos out there on how to use that, and created music. And I was happy with it. I am happy with it. And I'll put the link to, I created a new YouTube channel for those compositions. And it's in the tradition of the troubadour. It's really, for me, it's putting the poetry out there in a form that's more palpable than reading my poetry. So it's been really, really exciting. And I've been able to use AI as a powerful tool for doing what I wanted to do. And what I've done is on the channel, I say, here's what I did. I wrote the lyrics. Okay. And then I do stuff with AI, whatever. You pick, and I did the structure too. But AI did the composition. And I just wave a flag saying that's how it was created, not trying to hide it, not trying to take credit where credit is not due. And that's the best I can do. I would really love to be able to digitally watermark my lyrics. I don't care about the structure so much, although there's certain elements of musical sensitivity that comes into play. Certainly, even with AI, I'm the decision maker. I look at different samples and pick what I want. And of course, sampling goes way back. So sampling, which is not AI, but it's sort of the harbinger of things to come. This whole notion of where did music originate from, and what kind of chordal sequences are acceptable, what tempo ranges are common within certain genres, and there's a lot of these rules out there. So anyway, that's how I handled it. Like I say, I'm happy with it, but in all humility, when asked this question by a friend of mine, when you look at a song, in my opinion, the music is a dominant element, and music evokes emotion. And it does that in this really cool, visceral way that is hard to discern. And I've read up on these things, and neurologically even, it's hard to discern exactly how music impacts you. And my lyrics are carried by the music. I put them in the description sheet. It's a humble attempt to kind of hold the hand of the bigger creative element in these works and my lyrics. And that's just my opinion. I'm just trying to be honest. I think many people can hear a song and not really hear the lyrics. And maybe songs can distort a poem in a way. And I did have to work some of the words a little bit to make it flow properly. So anyway, that's my story about poetry, music, and AI. And I was just really happy with how I could link up to AI and use its magic to do things I wanted to do, that I had a vision for, but I did not have the talent or the ability to do myself. And so that opens up a whole new corridor of things. In terms of, well, here I'm going to get, I don't want to get into this music again because it's so easy to do, because I really struggle with it too. What is really mine, what's creative? And I have a lot of things, we'll say, copyrighted before Pick a Magic Day 2022 I mentioned earlier. And so, yeah, there was spell checker, but there wasn't the kind of things that are going on now. And I am eager to have authenticity sort of ingrained in these digital technologies. And I'm also really concerned with identity, theft, we'll say, protection of privacy, all the things that are coming about and are of concern. And we're living in this kind of Wild West right now, which is really not generally a good thing. And then it's a real issue with the visual, I don't know if I call it visual arts, I say commercial art, because everyone's looking at thumbnails and really simplified works on their phones. So you've got the Bill Watterson, Calvin and Hobbes lament of, nobody can see my artwork because it's too small. So, there's that whole tough thing that's going on. And even if you look within, so like that's maybe largely graphic design, commercial art, or commercial design of sorts, and illustrators, children's book illustrators, all these kind of things. It's the storm is a brewing. And even in industrial design, or sort of creative elements that use 3D, including environmental design and other things, rather than present a client with 20 ideation sketches that you think are the best, you could present the client with 2,000 that are generated by AI and have the client pick the one that he or she likes. So it's, you say, here's, because, in commercial design, the client is the boss. And so what if that's the new face of certain types of design? Just here's a bunch of different variants, see what you like. You can look at them. And you don't need a designer per se for that. You need the rules of design, the objective elements of design, and then a lot of variations. So which really leads into surprise, which maybe I'll talk about later on another video, because that's something I'm fascinated about too. That's one area where we can diverge from the curated data sets. We can surprise, we can say, whoa, that's different than what I expected. So anyway, that's my story with poetry and music, and I'm trying to think even how to close it out. I worked with a lot of different genres, and AI is still, in terms of music generation, has problems. Like many of the songs are not exactly what I want. I can't fix them. So a real musician could fix them, could improve them, and I say that with all humility. But it was really interesting to be able to work across genres. Although I had problems with some things. I had problems with opera, I had problems with classical accompaniment, even classic guitar, flute guitar duets, I'd probably say flute sound. There's like these technical problems, so you work with what you got. But fascinating time actually I did a lot of it within 3 days, and then it got, my favorites. And anyway, and then I did, a bunch more songs here in July, and I know a few years from now people will be laughing at it and seeing the little telltales about its AI origin and all that stuff, and I understand that. But just like someone who wants to has some kind of visual, recollection, a dream, let's say, and they want to create a painting from it, well, if they have no skills at painting, they can, use AI to generate something that maybe is not great art and maybe isn't a perfect representation of what they dreamed, but when they look at it, they can recall their dream. It's a reminder. And that's how my poems are. They're not great poems, but they remind me of what I was trying to express when I wrote the poem. And in my paintings, a lot of my paintings are images. I'd say visions because that sounds a little bit religious, but although a lot of my paintings are Christian paintings, but I try to paint things I've seen in my mind. Sometimes I've done things that I force my imagination to go at, like before the Webb telescope. I like this exercise. Before the Webb telescope was implemented, I did a painting of what deep space could look like, because I really wanted to do that before we actually got images from the Webb, and that was just kind of like this fun exercise. And of course, with paint, I mainly paint, and painting's very physical, and I like that, and it's dynamic and it's layered, and it's I love the underpainting. So I'm starting to ramble here. Okay, I do. So you can stop watching this whenever you want. This isn't monetized, so I guess I can ramble. But I really enjoy I really enjoy the process of painting, which is not, here's what I want to do, here's the result. It's really a process, and with that, of course, is the idea I'm trying to communicate, and then it's certain skills used to execute it, to work with composition, which I've talked about, the objective rules, which we don't like to talk about, and even the use of color to push things into the foreground and background, and using those rules to kind of get where you want. And then there's the interaction with the media, and then there's seeing what you get, and then you get your layering, so you get these really kind of subtle elements coming into play. And the best advice, I don't even know if I got the advice, I guess I heard it somewhere, a painting, you should stop painting when you think you should stop painting, because it's never quite done. So anyway, I really like that process. But when I do it, because I hope to start a painting, I'm not going to do it today, but I have something in my mind that I want to do. But once I do it, it really kind of burdens my mind. Like, I just think about it all the time, and so it's like a source of what's the word? It's a burden. I guess that's a kind word. But it's like, okay, now I've got this other thing going on, and it's always working. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, but sometimes it's nice to be unburdened. Okay, so thanks for listening to this. The music production was really fun. The unknowns are how do you properly credit AI for doing what it does? How do you do that? So your name isn't tagged to something that you had very little to do with. Conversely, how do you get credit for things you did do that AI did not get involved with? How do you do that? And I still think that's getting worked out. So if mistakes are the sign of human intervention, which it has, that's all been the case for some time now when you're trying to authenticate paintings and stuff, you're looking for mistakes. That's a little bit, well, it's human, but it's a little bit sad too that imperfection is a marker of human involvement. Of course, AI has some real problems too with certain things. But okay, thank you for your time. Have a good day.